VOLIBEAR, a champion which is played on the top lane or inside the jungle under normal circumstances. But for whatever reason this player managed to reach Korean Master by one-tricking this thing on the support role. Well, when you take a second look at his abilities, you will realize that VOLIBEAR has a solid amount of utility in his kit in order to perform well as a supporter. First of all, he has a mobility spell, which doubles the movement speed buff when you are running towards an enemy, and stuns your laning opponent when you manage to reach them. Once they are caught, you can be sure to collect a kill with this champion. And as most of you guys already know, the ultimate of this polar bear is a perfect tool for tower diving, turning the whole lane into a danger zone for the enemy bot lane. Now you might think that you should be safe as long as you keep enough distance towards this champion, since look at his pathetic range. Well, even that problem can be fixed with a specific spell. At the start of the game, VOLIBEAR is going to purchase a relic shield and 2 health potions. Nothing extraordinary. The first skill point is going to be put into the E spell, which is one of the key abilities of VOLIBEAR support and can be perfectly used as a poking tool, so the enemy AD carry van never farm peacefully. It creates a thundercloud that sends a thunderbolt with a 2-second cast time, so it's kinda hard to hit. But the good thing is that the enemy sees the area where it is going to land way later than you. The problem is whenever you are going to cast the spell, VOLIBEAR is going to raise his arm suspiciously. So it works like a warning signal for the enemy. That is the reason why you should always try to cast the ability in a bush to make sure that this spell actually hits, since it has a really high cooldown. But when you manage to hit this spell, it deals a solid amount of damage, and the damage increases based on the target's max HP. That's the reason why it is the perfect tool to poke the enemy down. Another small advantage is that this spell is the best tool to help your jungler during the leash, since the other 2 abilities don't do that much damage towards a jungle camp. The next skill point should be used to unlock the Q spell, and
this is where the fun begins.
From now on we are going to change the poke playstyle into an engage playstyle. This ability causes VOLIBEAR to evolve backwards, so he suddenly walks on all 4 legs, but this grants him with some additional movement speed when running towards an enemy. And when you manage to auto-attack them while being in this form, your laning opponent gets stunned for 1 second, proccing the rune Glacial Augment and slowing all enemies standing on this slippery part, allowing your carry to catch up and unleash his full damage on the opponent. And when they are stunned, it also guarantees your thunder to hit them. But now you might ask yourself, well, it's great that I have managed to reach them and made a catch for my carry, but how am I going to survive all the incoming damage from 2 enemies? Well, luckily the thunder can help you out in this situation. When VOLIBEAR stays inside the impact area, he gets granted with a shield that has the strength of 14% of his max HP for about 2 seconds, which allows him to take a solid amount of damage. Not to forget the high base stats he has as a top laner that also let him survive a lot. But there is still one major problem left. VOLIBEAR's engage is really obvious and can easily be avoided when you walk away on time. Obviously you can make use of your flash to get right away into the stun range, but the enemy can easily flash out of it. Well, now we have to go back to the poking stage. I hope you guys still remember, otherwise you might be suffering from dementia. Anyway, you try to hit the E spell by casting it from a spot where the enemy can't see you. What I didn't mention before is the fact that this spell also slows the enemy by 40% when you manage to hit this spell, and combined with the movement speed VOLIBEAR gets through his Q spell, you can reach them in an instant and catch them. And once they are caught, there is no escape. And your third skill point is obviously going to be put into the what the fuck, the Q spell. Yes, we are going to put the next skill points into the Q spell in order to increase VOLIBEAR's movement speed and the cooldown of this ability. In fact, we are not going to skill the W ability until we are forced to, which would happen at level 13. Well, the W spell can be useful after the engage since it allows VOLIBEAR to heal a bit, but it is way better to increase the movement speed on the Q spell to make the engage easier, since the W spell is useless when you can't reach the enemy in the first place. Speaking of increasing your movement speed, not only by maxing the right ability out is important to make the engaging part of this bear easier, also buying the right items. That's why we are going to rush boots first in order to get that additional movement speed as fast as possible. And now the bear is way faster than before, making it easier to reach the enemy bot lane. But this additional movement speed can also be really useful outside the lane. Since VOLIBEAR is normally being played inside the jungle, you can be sure that his kit is made for ganking other lanes. The E spell should be placed right on his escape path, so you can still catch them when they try to run away, since VOLIBEAR's Q spell might not provide him with enough movement speed to reach the enemy. But as already told, when you catch them once, they are dead for sure. This is the perfect tactic when you can't reach the enemy on the bot lane and are tired of getting poked down during the whole laning phase. VOLIBEAR can try to poke back, but as already said, the thunder is really hard to hit and it has a 13-second cooldown which cannot be lowered by skilling the E ability. Well, when they are hiding under their turret the whole game, we just have to force them to take a fight. How are we going to do that? I mean, we can't just pull them away from their tower. Well, if we can't get them away from the turret, we have to get rid of the turret itself. Here is the moment where VOLIBEAR's ultimate comes in very handy. The polar bear jumps into the sky and punches the ground, slowing every enemy in the area for 1 second and increasing his own size. And the best thing about this ultimate is that it can deactivate turrets for 3 seconds at level 1, giving VOLIBEAR and his carry more than enough time to get rid of them. Even better when there is a jungler who can help you out, so the enemy team doesn't have any spots to hide. But even when they are playing an engaged comp, VOLIBEAR's ultimate can be used to deal AoE damage, and provides himself with more HP. But thanks to the Q spell stun, VOLIBEAR can also really be useful when it comes to peeling for his AD carry. The additional slow through the rune and the E spell also make it harder for the enemy to kill him. And that will also be your main objective late in teamfights when this polar bear can't fulfill his other task. That would be catching enemy carries that are walking all on their own and providing your teammate with a free kill. This bear is just too fast, so most enemies can't escape this thing, only when they use a summoner spell. So whenever they are overextending, VOLIBEAR activates his turbo and catches any enemy he wants. Just catch them off guard and you will have a number advantage at the next objective fight. But sometimes it isn't possible to avoid the team fight and this bear is forced to join it. Then your main objective should be, as already mentioned, peeling for your own carries with the Q stun and try to deal as much damage as possible with the ultimate, and try to get more sustain through the Thunder Shield. That's also the reason why you should buy an Iron Locket as your first item in order to be somehow useful during these team fights. Here are the build and runes for VOLIBEAR support. And if you are wondering how a Warwick support can ult across a quarter of the map and takes Ghost, Cleanse is his summoner spells. Click on this video right here.